Hi guys, it's Jen here, and let me just try to figure this out. There we go. I was gonna say it was on, and then it got really dark on you guys, and let me try to adjust this a little bit. Okay, here we go. So what I have in front of me is pieces of a swap that I wasn't going to take part in because I was kind of over the holiday as far as crafting goes, and I have moved on to Christmas. However, we needed a swap angel to come into the group, which means that one person was without a partner. So why not? I jumped on board. I signed myself up. I love Halloween anyway. So what we had to swap was these little treat bags. Okay. And we had to swap 4 of them. Okay. And these ones measure 5 inches by roughly 3 inches. Okay, so they're very petite, perfect for the classroom, perfect for if you have kids that are close, like family members, perfect to give them a little something extra at the holiday season. Okay, so I made a bunch of them. And this one, you can see that I tied up here by punching a hole and tying ribbon through. This one I decided to take a punch to. There's all sorts of really cool punches nowadays. If you don't have a punch, feel free to get out your Cricut. I will give you all the measurements, so it won't be hard to punch that into the Cricut. And this was another one that I made. And I kind of just pulled out a bunch of stuff from my scraps and a bunch of stuff from my Halloween bin, which, because it's nearing the end of the holiday, it's getting kind of low, but this is just kind of all my Halloween stuff. So I've been pulling stuff out of there and making it. But what I wanted to come on and do is, because these are great little gift bags, they're very easy to make, and they could be perfect for maybe table decor during Thanksgiving, possibly passing out. Again, Halloween treats is what I'm going to use them for the swap. I'm going to make a whole bunch for my kids' classroom. They could be good for Christmas, to put little treats and stuff in there, or perhaps even Easter. So depending on your paper and your theme, they are good for a bunch of different things. Here's what I'm going to use. And again, I have this pattern paper. I'm using the Cats and Bats line from Close to My Heart. I'm not going to punch this one. I'm going to run this ribbon through it. So I have my Score Pal, my ruler, the string, solid cardstock, pattern cardstock, of course my bone folder, and some adhesive. Okay? Let's go ahead and get going. First thing that we are going to do is we are going to cut a piece of paper out at 4 3/4, and we're going to cut a square. So it's going to be 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. But before I get going too far into this, I did want to let you know, if you're using a heavyweight cardstock, you won't need to make the base paper out of a solid colored cardstock. You can go ahead and use your heavyweight pattern paper for it, and it should hold together just right. With all of the ones that I made, because I started out using this Paper Studio paper, which is really, really thin, so I made my base, and then I added the paper on top. And I did the same thing with my heavier paper, but as I lifted up this paper to show you guys how to do it, I realized that you could go ahead and skip the base, or you could layer it. As long as you have heavy cardstock as the base, you should be fine. Okay, so I hope that made sense. First thing we're going to do is cut the bottom out, and everybody needs a bottom. Okay, so whether you're going to use your heavyweight cardstock for it or a plain piece of cardstock for it, everybody needs to cut out the bottom. Okay, so let's go ahead. It's 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. Okay. And we are going to take that, and we are going to score on all 4 sides at 1 inch. Okay. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors, and I am just going to cut up. I'm not going to cut both, but I'm going to choose a side and cut opposites. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 1. I flipped it right around. 2, 3, 4. Okay. And the other thing that's really cool about this design is that you can feel free to make this larger and make it for like maybe a birthday gift bag or a Christmas gift bag that actually holds a gift in it. And the way you would do that is just by attaching 2 pieces of 12 by 12 paper. Okay. So now I have something that looks like this. I have my flaps on the ends. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put adhesive. Adhesive's completely your choice. Double-sided sticky tape, tape runner, wet glue, hot glue, whatever you want to do. Found this really cool wet glue. So I'm going to go ahead and just get all 4 of those corners. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in. Okay, so the way that I do that is that I take it, and since I'm using a wet glue, I'm going to do one side at a time, and I'm just going to hold it for a minute. It doesn't take extremely long, but you do want to make sure that this is going to be nice and tight since it is the bottom of your bag. Okay, so I'm just going to squeeze that together and hold it for a second. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so my glued tabs are going to the inside of this box that we're creating. And just in case you are brand new to this, you have just created a box. Okay, and I know that a lot of people make cards and then are wondering how to get a box that their cards can fit into. Same thing that you just did, except for bigger. Okay, so again, there's a few techniques when it comes to paper crafting, but you can use those techniques in a lot of different ways. Okay, so again, I have my little box. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of solid cardstock and I'm going to build the walls of it. Okay, and this is what I mean by the walls of it. So this can either be a heavyweight cardstock or this can be a piece of plain cardstock with pattern paper on top, which is what I will show you. Okay, so the first thing you do is keep it at 12 inches. If you're using a piece of paper that's 11.5, that's absolutely okay. And determine the height that you want yours. Okay, so this one is 5 inches. Your height can be any height that you want. If you want a bigger box, make it a little longer. Mine's going to be 5 inches, so my piece of paper is going to measure 12 by 5. Okay. Then I'm going to take it, and I'm going to score at 2 3/4 all the way down through it. So 2 3/4, another 2 3/4, okay, another 2 3/4, and then at the end I'm going to have a flap, okay, and it's about an inch long gap, 1/2 inch if you're using 11.5 inch paper. And you just go down through, you fold that, okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with my pattern paper that I'm going to lay on top of it. But for the pattern paper, instead of cutting it at 5 inches, I'm going to cut it at 4 3/4. Okay, and that gives me a 1/4 inch that is going to be my gap inch. Okay, so then again, I'm going to score at 2 3/4. 2 3/4. 2 3/4, and again. Okay, so each one of these panels is 2 3/4. The hardest part of this is probably choosing which side of the paper you want to use. Let me go ahead and move this right out of the way. I'm going to pull my base back. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my tape runner and I'm going to attach this piece onto here, being mindful of where I put those score marks. Okay, so we're going to take the tape runner all the way around. Okay, and now my flap is here, my flap is here, so I'm going to spin this over so that they match. Okay, the way that I'm going to line these up is on those score marks that I've already have established. Okay, that does two things for you. That makes sure that you can fold it nice and easy with no cracks, and it also makes sure that your paper is lined up flat. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's kind of funny looking right now. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to apply adhesive just to the bottom of this. Okay, so I'm just going to take my tape runner. I'm going to run it down through twice. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put adhesive on this flap, the smaller flap right on the outside of it. Okay, and then starting in the middle, I'm going to lay my box, and I do apologize if my head gets into this frame. I'm going to lay my box down right into one of those panels, and I am simply going to do the best that I can with wrapping this paper around the bottom of that box. Okay, and I got sidetracked there for a minute because I'm using the same paper, the same solid cardstock. However, I just realized that they're two different colors. And I was like, what in the world? How in the world did that happen? And that happened because Close to My Heart this past July released dual-tone cardstock, which is awesome because it's like getting two colors in one. However, you do have to pay attention now when you're crafting because one side is slightly darker than the other side. Okay, so there I have my box, and it's all wrapped around. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just pinch in the sides. Okay, whoops, popped it right out of my hands. So I'm going to run my finger up and push into the top and pinch that. And now there's a number of different things that you could do with this top. Okay, you could punch it. You could tie string through it simply by hole punching it. Okay, or you can add a small top to it that folds like this. Okay, and the way that you do that is you're going to size it out. So this is 2 3/4. Okay, and this looks like it's about long enough. So we'll say 2 3/4 by 2 1/2. So you'll cut that out, and then you'll just simply fold it and staple it to the top of your bag. Okay, I'm not going to do that because these are not my bags. These are for a swap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch my bags, and I'm going to tie ribbon through it. Okay, so let me go ahead. Ooh, there goes all my little dots. Let me clean these up real quick. My desk is a mess today. I used glitter tape earlier, and of course I got glitter all over the place. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's punch this. The way that I had to do it earlier, because I doubled up on my cardstock, is I had to punch one at a time. Okay, and it got kind of to be a pain in the butt, but let me show you how I did it.